So today on Plums we have Harm from MACE, and we get into his life as a founder, his life getting around the world, and of course the amazing technology that MACE is putting together to build that aggregation layer on Monad. Let's get to it. Harm, welcome to Plums. It's fantastic to have you here representing the fantastic MACE. How you been doing?
Doing good. How about you?
Yeah, nice. As I say, super pumped to get you on here. Now, Mace is, of course, a very interesting name for a project. And as you know, I like to start off episodes of Plums with a little bit of a silly icebreaker question. And what I wanted to ask you, Harm, is if you and I were in a room now together, and I had some plate armor on and I had a big mace, what strategies would you use to defend yourself against a mace attack?
Ooh, against a mace attack? Well, I guess I would see if you're like wielding it with like one or two hands.
Okay.
It's two hands. I could probably try to sneak by you, hopefully, miss getting maced and hopefully try to grab it. But yeah, honestly, I don't think it's a good position to be in if you're running
No.
away from the mace. So
Yeah, no, that's it. And how do you have an interest in medieval weaponry? Is it something that you've looked at, or you study, or you have an interest in, or is it just a passing thing for you?
no, I think I've always been interested in like, the medieval times. I think everyone on the team has also spent a lot of time playing Diablo, so
Okay, good.
yeah, it was just like a fun theme for us, and yeah, we all just kind of liked it. Thought it was really fitting, and yeah, we do have kind of like an acronym for MACE as well. Call it like uh, I guess like a market aggregator for concentrated efficiency.
Yeah.
But yeah, we like the mace, and we like that it's like nice and short, easy
Yeah.
to remember. We get a lot of funny like in person, things from other people. They'll say like, "Oh, is it a mace like the bear spray, or the one that you'll defend yourself with against attackers?" Which is actually different than what we usually expect, like the actual physical mace. But yeah, it's always a fun conversation starter. So
Yeah.
yeah,
To be fair, using like bear spray mace or like personal defense spray mace would be a really good way to defend against a knight with a mace. Like,
it
what?
would. Yeah, it definitely would.
Yeah.
It's funny because we're in Canada and it's actually illegal to have mace as like a defense, defense weapon or whatever.
Which
So
one? The spray or the, the
it's
medieval
great.
weapon?
Have it. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, probably the medieval one you probably carry around now. But yeah, yeah. So it's fun.
Yeah. You're walking along the street with an actual medieval mace, and the policeman's like, I'm not going to try and do a Canadian accent. I should try and do a Canadian, but I'm not going to. Because it would be so terrible. Yeah, but you can just imagine them giving you a hard time. Like, stop. What have you
Yeah,
got there?
it's on
Don't worry,
the
I can't. It
What do
doesn't
you guys
spray
think?
anything. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. But yeah, interesting what you said about the two hand thing, because so much of medieval weaponry, if you have two hands on it, then you wider swings, and then you're open. If you can parry or get out of the way, that's when you go in. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
wrestled in high school, so my thinking is, yeah, if he's got two hands, like get him a little off balance, maybe do a little takedown. Who knows, right? But
yeah. And you
it'd be fun.
mentioned you and the team big fans of Diablo. Yeah, tell me, how did you guys get into it? Did you meet playing Diablo, or is it something that's developed since? Yeah, how did that evolve?
Yeah, no, we didn't actually meet playing Diablo. I think we all just, played it, in our lives. So it's always been something that, we've all liked. But no, most of us met actually like in the space. My co-founder Ritz and I actually have known each other for a number of years. So when we were both, looking for kind of our next project, which did end up being Mace, we came together and
Yeah,
we started working really well from the beginning, and then most of the other hires were either like recommendations or referrals or people that we have worked with in the past. And then yeah, that's why it took us a while to grow the team. But yeah, we're at a pretty nice number. We actually are looking for one additional engineer, but overall, yeah, we have a pretty solid team now, and everyone's been working together for close to 2 years now at the very minimum.
Yeah, I just imagine the interview process, of a new person coming in. It's like, have you ever played Diablo? No, get out. It's a requirement for working with you guys.
It's similar to that, you make sure, you like using GitHub, Discord, a
Yeah.
lot of the common, applications. But yeah, it's not too far from that actually, which is a little funny.
Yeah, something I think would be worth doing, I'm not going to do it, but someone should do it, is a study on the most popular computer game that founders played, because it'd be super interesting to see, because you see a bunch playing, real time strategy or similar kind of games, and then I wonder what the correlation is between what they're then building versus people that are playing those kind of less. There's more click brawler kind of or shoot, first person shooters or whatever. It'd be super interesting to see. Yeah, yeah, computer games were a big part of my life for a long time. I didn't get to play Diablo because my parents are evangelical Christians, and so you can imagine Diablo being like the worst thing that we could ever play. We snuck in a few games. My older brother went to boarding school, so he got to play Diablo and StarCraft and a bunch of games that I wouldn't have been able to play. But we, as we got older, we managed to sneak in a few titles. But yeah, it'd be interesting, as I say, to see, when you get a founder like you who's methodical, you're building, you have kind of a set way of, trying to get stuff done, whether that's, either come from or you're always like that and that's why you suited that kind of game. Interesting. Now, thinking about the medieval times, during that time, there wasn't much kind of economic or personal freedom, right? Like people couldn't, you're right, you're a serf and it was very hard to get up, or, maybe if you're a lord, you had a chance to take over another kingdom or change taxes and stuff. But for its very few people, amount of people. Whereas today, and especially in crypto, you and I have almost endless kind of possibilities, right? We can do whatever we want, and so, you have mad skills. You've got, your co-founder. You got a team. I want to understand, why did you settle on building like an aggregation layer? Like why? Like how did that come about? Because you must have thought and iterated and gone through loads of ideas, right? Why did you settle on an aggregation layer?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So, as you know, like previous to building on Monad, we were building on Solana for about 4 years. Moritz and I both were working in DeFi on different teams, but both working in DeFi. And what we noticed, or at least I noticed very early, given that we were building novel AMM tech, which was very difficult, took a lot of time and effort to kind of get going, is that we started to see that a lot of the volumes were naturally going to the aggregators. And at the time, there were two. There was Prism and Jupiter. Jupiter ended up, taking over in terms of market share by like towards the end of that like fourth year while we were building. And we saw that, yeah, it became very difficult if you weren't, I guess, like connected with a team or working with a team in order to get integrated, which pretty much decides whether your business succeeds or fails.
Yeah.
Because at the time, roughly, I would say like 95 to 99% of all the volume you would get as a DEX was effectively being routed through an aggregator. So yeah, naturally, when we were effectively, kind of ideating over which product we were going to effectively bring to the Monad ecosystem, and we also spoke with Keone and some of the other team members, and it seemed like there was already a lot of competition on the deck side already. Karoo, who we know them very well, Uniswap, PancakeSwap, a bunch of others were already entrants in the market.
Yep.
So it just made sense for us to go like one level lower on the stack of actually going to aggregation. And overall, I think that was a good decision for two reasons. One, there aren't necessarily as many aggregators, and two, yeah, it's now allowing us to connect with pretty much all the DEX teams. as well as some of the Mev teams in order to launch RFQ, which we're also working on right now. So yeah, I think overall it was a good positioning for us to have. And yeah, it's been going really well so far.
Yeah. Now you mentioned that you spent a decent amount of time building that novel AMM product on Solana, and you talked about there some of the challenges with essentially needing other people to bring the volume. Were there any other things that you learned as part of that experience? That's either augmented your skill sets or things that you now watch out for, or things that have assisted you, with moving forward.
Yeah, so originally what we thought is that users really want low risk, returns on like DeFi yields effectively, and that was our aim. We wanted to effectively solve impermanent loss. We wanted to kind of create like a very passive, way for you to lock up some of your assets, and then earn yield in those assets. So I think the aim was really good. I think just in practice, it doesn't always translate. Even though the yields were pretty good and we did have a decent amount of TVL, I would say, I think a majority of the users preferred a little bit more risk. And it is crypto. It makes a lot of sense. People want to trade meme coins. They want to trade NFTs. They want to, effectively double or triple their bags in a very short amount of time. And even getting like consistently 20% yield, which, is really good in pretty much traditional markets. In crypto, I think a lot of people, just prefer to take more risk. So I think that was a part of why I don't think it reached the market dominance that it needed. And yeah, so there, therefore, yeah, we just decided that let's just help people, swap as efficiently as possible. That is a larger market anyway. And also when, Monad goes to mainnet, that likely will be people's first interaction with the network, is usually with, swap interface, a DEX aggregator, etc. I know whenever I onboard friends to Solana, it is usually Jupiter that I'm, taking them to. Hey, you can swap your USC for Sol here or whatever, and now you can participate in DeFi. So kind of following the same parallels, we just figured that aggregation would be the best thing for us to work on. And while working on it, we actually discovered, a lot of efficiencies, a lot of things that we learned from building in the SVM that we could translate to the EVM and, bring them, a technical better product than they're used to in the EVM space. So yeah, overall we're having a lot of fun with it, and I think a lot of people are being excited with a few of the future releases that we have coming up. But yeah, happy to dive more into that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, people really do want that kind of seamless experience. They want the best price. They want it to go through. They want, and when talking about the best price, that could come from multiple sources as well, right? Like it can be split coming through. So, but I wonder, you talked about, having built on SVM now on EVM, and obviously the specific chain we're talking about, Monad, being peculiar in some ways, in terms of speed, with particular consensus mechanisms. I wonder if you can just tell us briefly, like, have you come across some cool stuff you're like, wow, yeah, I can now use this to make us, stand apart, as it were?
For sure. So as an example, in Solana, if you send a transaction and any one of the parameters, it isn't met, that transaction fails. I think a lot of people know this. A lot of people definitely talk about it on Twitter. And in the EVM, we have like partial reverts. So effectively, you kind of, prepay the gas, and then the transaction can go down any number of potential possibilities, effectively until that gas is extinguished, at which point you will also have a failed transaction. But typically in the EVM, we see a lot less failed transactions because of that. And, and while we were building Mace, what we realize is we can actually reduce the gas spend that users pay by a factor of 10,
Wow.
just the way that we handle our execution and do a lot of the math operation off chain. But what that effectively means is that we will likely never have failed transactions on Mace. And even on testnet, I don't think a user is even reported a failed transaction, unless there is like a slippage issue or whatever. So yeah, what we've noticed is that it's really easy to, I guess, like have users, get their swap on Mace, on Monad much easier than you would have on Solana. In some example where people are trading very fast, liquidity is changing very quickly, and also with some partners that we're going to work with, yeah, we'll be able to effectively guarantee that you won't have a failed transaction. So I guess a user will still have to determine, is this the best price right now? Am I comfortable getting this execution right now versus, I don't know, waiting a few seconds and whatnot. But ideally, yeah, there are a lot of key differences, and most of them are around the user
Yeah,
experience,
nice.
which we'll be taking advantage of as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. The one danger, of course, is Mace can have the superior tech, but we see it time and time again, in the world where like things just because they're the best at something doesn't mean they win out. And I think where I see you putting a decent amount of effort in is around that community building to try and make sure that people see it as that homepage of Monad, and then once people start using it, you get that stickers. And I want to ask you about that a bit later on. Before we get there, though, I wanted to ask you, and I'm hoping for a real, candid answer on this. We I wanted to, from a founder point of view, you've had to raise some money to be able to build this protocol out, and you can raise from VCs, you can raise from angels, and you've taken some angels on. I wanted to understand, from a founder perspective, when bringing on angels, have you been able to see a benefit over and above the money? Like, are they delivering value? Are you getting the right kind of conversations? I mean, obviously we're on this today, but is there? Have you seen that, or is it just more getting some better distribution with the right kind of people, or what?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I personally lean towards angels versus traditional VCs. Yeah, although we do have both in the round. But yeah, with angels, you have the added benefit that this person, obviously, as you mentioned, is going to be in like certain social circles, which could be beneficial. But also, there's a bit more credibility with someone who's an angel, who's potentially also a founder, who's also
Yeah.
working in the space. Just given that, if they trust you, if they think you're going to deliver, then it makes it a lot easier for other parties to think the same thing. And typically, angels will also be able to, I guess, mention your product or highlight what you're building with their own VCs investors. So it's just, I think, like a great way to involve yourself with new networks and then be able to build rapport with them and, kind of be able to showcase, your abilities as a founder, what you're working on, what you've delivered in the past and how you're doing things differently now, etc. So yeah, we prefer angels. All of our angels are really great. Obviously, they're friends of mine as well, but yeah, they've been very helpful to the project, both providing feedback, yeah, potentially getting us intros to new parties.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been overall, I would say, very beneficial to have angels as kind of like spokespeople for yourself
Yeah,
and your team.
nice. I've always wondered that, it's one of those things that I've just, I've thought that is the case, but I wonder, okay, does it actually work out like that for everyone? And specifically you, having the opportunity to talk to you today, I thought it'd be worth, asking you. Now, here's another question, which for some of our viewers will be totally bizarre, but there's a reason it's coming through. Do you speak Japanese?
I do not know.
Okay, cool. Well, this is we're going to hear from our today's sponsors, and it's going to be as confusing for you as it is for me now as well. Then, so let me see if I can share my screen here. Let me bring it
Let's do
up.
it.
AJ による企業の成功の秘訣へようこそ。低中な結局でエビの消費の秘密を悟ります。いや、サマンサのことを考えてたんだ。それを動画に入れるべきではない。なぜリビシウスキリンのものがそこにあるのですか。誰がこんなことをしたの。誰が責任者かを見つけなければなりません。
Yeah, there's so much weird lore in that video of Ray J's corporate success. I mean, I've no idea what's being said the whole way through. But the bit of lore that I have no idea, I don't know what that foot thing is at the end. Someone must have hurt their foot at some point in the Monad Discord that week or something, and he's just like, yeah, let's put that in.
Someone's always getting injured because I look on Twitter, Coyote's like, get better suit. I'm like, okay, man. Did this person do this just for the clout? I don't know. But
that would be mad if they did. We had a community member get like a really bad dog attack. Drakey got attacked by a dog, and it is nasty how it's really done his leg. Seriously bad. But yeah, it's probably done really good for his personal brand within the space, to be honest. You know, silver
content, right?
Yeah, and all that. But some of the other funny lore that's in that video. Did you see them eating the shrimp at one point? So Ray J was going, like, I don't know how or why, but it came about, and the Twitter account's still there, and sometimes I still troll people about it. He was going to create something called shrimp decks. And so he was going to make a dex, and I don't know why it was based on shrimp, but yeah, way back then he was going to build this shrimp dex. It was going to be a 3-3, kind of velodrome, autodrome thing, and I want to talk to you about different AMMs in a minute, but yeah, there's some other good stuff in there. Obviously, we got the different mon animals. You got the Lyrath, the Japanese guy riding the Lyrath through the office.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But and then you see the ginger girl crying, which is a Samantha reference. So good. Ray J just keeps bringing them out. But yeah, talking about different dex designs. So yeah, so he was looking at a 3-3 design, and we've seen, particularly on base and optimism, this kind of 3-3 design taking off. It's been less successful in some smaller chains. I think maybe because they haven't had quite the same. I think there's been improvements in the code base in terms of efficiencies, and Aerodrome, I think you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, keeps some of it under a different license at the moment, so they have some better systems than, say, Nile on linear, from your view, do you, obviously having built an AMM, do you have a view on, certain systems and whether they're better? And obviously we have Clobs now coming on to Monad. Yeah, pluses and minus, which ones do you think are the best?
It's a really great question. I guess it just comes down to like the user's risk profile and also the assets. So like I would recommend something like a DLMM for assets that move in a certain range. I think that's much easier for users to capture more fees and have like a profitable net position. Of course, there are still like some adjustments that you'll need to make over time, but generally I think it's a pretty good experience for users that do understand AMMs. Beyond that, yeah, like if you're a little bit more naive, just want to, I guess, like dip your toes and kind of experience it. I guess, more the traditional like Uni V2 style forks work well. Yeah. The 3-3 stuff is great. I think you just kind of need to understand what you're doing so you don't kind of get like hooked. But generally, it's really great for marketing, getting TVL, having locked liquidity, etc. So all of those, of course, have like a use case, I would say. And then, of course, we have like Clobs, right, unlike the other side, which I think are probably the easiest for users to understand if they've done any trading in the past. And obviously the lowest slippage for that reason as well. So, yeah, I think it really just comes down to like user behavior, how active they are, are they on the chain every day? Do they want to come back once a week and, take a look at their position? I think some of those factors play in a key factor to like deciding which AMM users will use and what is the most beneficial or positive EV for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned there with you know, the 3.3 design that you know, it's great for kind of getting people to pile in and be involved and get excited about it. And that's something that you needed as an aggregator, right? You need to be bringing these people in. And I noticed the T-shirt. I mean, look at this, Nad's Happy Hour East Denver. You know, you're always out, you know, making, you know, trying to get the Nads, because you sponsored that event, right? Did you put it
Yeah.
together? Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually our first event, and we did it with some teams that we work with, like Fastlane and a few others. So yeah, it was a
What were
great
the
time.
drinks? What were you slurping?
We actually didn't have like any like signature cocktails. I think there were like a few, but I mean, I mostly drink like whiskey and Coke.
Good.
But people are allowed to drink wherever they want. It was open bar, so I think
Yeah.
everyone could come.
They had a good time. The Nads went wild.
Yeah.
What whiskey are you? What's your favorite whiskey? Where's
Oh, it's a good question. I guess I'm like a little fond of like Crown Royal. It's actually a Canadian whiskey.
okay.
But over the last couple of years, I've started getting into the Japanese whiskeys a lot as well,
Nice.
and I like them a lot as well. So yeah, I guess
Seriously.
I'm leaning towards either something kind of standard or the Japanese.
Yeah, the Japanese have been able to kind of bring their keen eye for detail to bring a seriously quality product that's challenging essentially the rest of the world. You know, there's you know, they win the awards. They do yeah, really well with their products. You mentioned Canadian. One thing that I've wondered, and I've never been brave enough to ask you, and now is the chance. So your handle on X is Canada Harm, right?
Yeah.
And in my mind, then, I don't know if it's like the dyslexia or something, like in my mind, it's just Canada Ham, because Canada Ham is like a real, that's a product, right? Have I made that up, that Canada Ham is a thing?
Yeah, we do kind of have like our own like pea meal bacon or ham. It's like a little thicker, I guess. Usually like a little sweet. Yeah, I guess you're right. There probably is something like that as well. But
But it wasn't intentional. You weren't like, I love
Yeah.
ham and I'm going to get Canada, I'm going to play off it.
it's like a staple or anything that anyone eats regularly. But yeah, I think there is a slight difference between some of our meats and the rest of the world. So yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's go back to this, the community stickiness point. So, I know within my kind of trading experience, I've, I was using a lot on maybe Matcha, and then Jumper were able to kind of bring me in and lure me in because I was just using them for bridge aggregation, and then they kind of brought in some swap aggregation at the same time, and I just find it, super easy to do. They have, like a leveling system that, somewhat engages me. But yeah, tell me about your approach to getting users to come back. I mean, obviously getting them there in the first place, but what are your thoughts on getting them to come back time and time again?
It's a really great question, and it's actually what we're working on right now. So we're actually working on a points program that we think will be a lot of fun, number one, but number two, will effectively incentivize users to obviously use the application, perform swaps, etc., try to target volume, but also coming back every day. So definitely we'll be happy to show you, some of that before the release. But yeah, I think that will, make it a little bit more fun for users to obviously do something on the test net, but also know that, they're, benefiting themselves by using the application. So that what I discussed was like our points program. So yeah, I think that'll be really interesting. One thing I can mention is that if you do hold our NFT pass that we did mint a little while back, you will actually have early access to this points program ahead of like general users. So if you do currently use Mace, or you're, I guess, like wanting to farm some of those points early, we'd probably recommend grabbing one of the NFTs before we make that announcement and that supply dries up. But
nice alpha there on the Plums podcast.
Have to for my boy, so
Yeah, good. Now, you mentioned Japanese whiskey. You mentioned, backpack there. Something I, think about when we've had calls is you're almost always in a different part of the world when we talk. You like you're always working, but you're working in different parts of the world. I wonder, just briefly, tell me about the benefits of being global and being nimble and being able to go around, some of the amazing places and people that you've met.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to be honest, like the whole reason I'm here is because of, being able to travel, connecting with, other founders, other teams, and then slowly building a network and, I guess like now having our own place in the ecosystem. So yeah, I would 100% attribute all of the success that we've had to directly networking with people in the community. Beyond that, I think it's really great as a founder to also travel and then be able to speak with users from different parts of the world, see what they like, and some of the differences in terms of what they expect from a user experience versus others. So I think it's great like customer discovery, and also I think like given we all do work from home typically. It's really hard to like meet people that are using your product wherever you live geographically. At least definitely in the beginning stage when it's not you don't have that dominance and everyone's using it. So yeah, I think it's been very beneficial for us to refine the product, speak to like our community, build that rapport. And I think for community members, just thinking of myself as well, whenever I do meet teams, products that I do use, there is like an added trust element that I think I do attribute to those teams, given that now I've met them, maybe had a conversation, maybe understand, kind of how they think about things. And typically, if everything feels great, I'm even more bullish than I was last time, right? And more likely to onboard my friends, family, etc. To maybe not only their product, but maybe the general eco. And so yeah, I think generally it's really beneficial, and I'd highly recommend it to early startup founders as well, just to just to learn. And I think it's great. I've never,
Nice.
I don't think, had any bad experiences in the 4 or so years that I've been in the space and traveling, etc. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it to others for sure.
Yeah, no, it's been good to see, and it's looking from the outside in, I can see the value it's driving to you and the product as well. So yeah, it's very good to see. Now we're coming to an end. I did have a bunch more questions that I wanted to ask you, but one thing I've been thinking while I've been looking at this beautiful beard of yours, this fantastic T-shirt, and this wonderful Mace branded hat. Something I often think about is physicals, merch and stuff. Something that I want to leave you with to consider. You don't have to give me an answer right now, but how sick would it be to have a a scale size, you can make it out of foam, mace? Like that would be dope. Like no one ever has, real like huge.
Yep.
And I think people would, you talked about NFTs before. People are probably buy an NFT that came with a physical, mace, or whether you did it at a conference or whatever. Because people love what you're doing, they love the connection, they love what you're doing, and having something cool that's out there, maybe a little bit weird and wonderful. And me as a deeply unserious person would love a large orange mace. It would the color match, everything would just go well. So yeah, that's my plea for you.
That would be really cool to maybe give like some of our power users. I think that would be kind of cool. We are in discussion right now to create like a mace plushie.
Okay,
So
nice.
whether it's the actual mace or the mace man, like our little guy that you've probably seen on Twitter,
Yeah,
we're still going through that right now. But yeah, I think it would be a lot of fun to have
yeah,
more physical items. Of
yeah.
course, like we have given out merch in the past, which went over really well. But yeah, I think something a little bit more mace specific would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the
I'll
mace
definitely
plushie.
about the physical mace, but the plushie we've all already discussed and approved. So, but
Yeah.
It'll be fun in our stand-up this morning to chat about.
The team meeting. Yeah, Berry has requested that we start manufacturing life-size metal maces, please, and distributing them around the world. Can we do this, guys? No. We're not forging maces because some ginger guy on the internet requested them. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But the plushie, I mean, you guys go hard with the Mace Man on Twitter. You guys do really well with the Mace Man memes. And yeah, Mace Man or Mace plushie would go down really well with the community. Anyway, Harm, it's been fantastic to spend time with you to talk about Mace, the great product that you've got cracking, and to hear about everything that is going so well for you and the team. Thank you very much for coming on Plums. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Barry. It was a pleasure.
The information and discussion provided here is for educational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. Berry is not licensed to provide investment advice and does not offer such. Berry typically holds positions in the project and protocols he discusses and discloses that to you here. Opinions expressed by guests are theirs alone and do not necessarily reflect the views of Berry, Plums, or their affiliates. As with all things, and especially financial matters, please do your own research and consult with professionals where relevant.